Around Town is brought to you by Eastern North Carolina Medical Group. Good health is music to our ears. With office locations at 1041 Noel Lane, Suite 105 in Rocky Mount, 10589 East NC Highway 97 in Joiners Crossing Shopping Center in Rocky Mount, 155 Nashville Commons Drive in the Food Line Shopping Center Plaza in Nashville, North Carolina, 1812 Glendale Avenue, Suite B in Wilson, North Carolina, 903 North Arundel Drive in Zebulon, North Carolina, as well as the ENCMG Lewisburg Oncology Clinic at 216 North Beckett Boulevard, Suite 5 in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Log on to encmg.com today to locate the office nearest you.
Welcome to Around Town. I'm Jean Almand, and we have got an expert from out of town as our guest today, Darrell Allison, President for Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina. And of course, Pastor James Gilliard is going to co-host, and y'all have just met, but you know his brother very well.
I do.
Absolutely. But Darrell, we go back a long ways. I've been interviewing you with another network for about 7 years, I think now, and have always been impressed with what you're doing to help especially low-income and now disabled kids to be able to have options educationally. I want to really help people who have misconceptions about a lot of what the work that Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina do, to help them understand exactly what you're doing. And perhaps many people watching will think, well, gosh, I might benefit from tapping into your opportunity scholarships, among other things. And Pastor Gilliard, I wanted you to meet him and be involved in this because your church has over 1,000 young people. And it's all about what we in this area can do to maximize the best choices, the best educational opportunities for young people. So, Darrell, with that intro, give us the background on Parents for Educational Freedom, please.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, and you as well, Pastor. Listen, I'm a product of the public school system. I'm from North Carolina. I did well. I had God-fearing parents. We were in church, and we wouldn't be in school. And it paid off. I was very fortunate to get a scholarship. I needed to get a scholarship in order to go to college. My parents couldn't afford it. And God's been good. And so I have my own personal story as to what good public education can do for you. Chance to get a graduate degree and went to DC, and government affairs has kind of been in my bailiwick here with a connection to kind of real community efforts. And so when I came back 2003, 2004 to North Carolina, I had some leaders who talked to me about, hey Darrell, given your skill sets and things that you've done on national set, why don't you really think about starting an education reform organization for North Carolina? Mm-hmm. And I am a studier, and I had to really think about this. But when you talk about parental school choice, make no mistake about it, in the South, mm-hmm. Race and politics is very much connected to that. Mm-hmm. And so I had to analyze it for myself. And at the time, in 2004, here were the statistics. In North Carolina, we had 25,000 dropouts each year in the state of North Carolina. In North Carolina, we were in the bottom third in terms of graduation rates. We were at a little above 68% in the nation. And for African-American males, in terms of diploma in 4 years, only 40% of African-American males were getting a high school diploma in North Carolina in 4 years. Mm. These are the kind of statistics that you hear about Compton, California, some parts of New York. Surely not North Carolina, mm-hmm. where, as I give you those alarming statistics, we are internationally known for our colleges and universities. Mm-hmm. So why the dichotomy? Why the big separation here? And so it was that and well understanding the challenges in talking about good traditional public school education as well as charter school, private school, etc. It was going to be a work in progress, and we have progressed. Mm-hmm. And it is a situation where, Gene, as I always say, bottom line is, if you're wealthy in America, if you're wealthy in North Carolina, they're going to work the system to find that education that's going to work for their child because they have the means to do that. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately in North Carolina, because so much is tied to where you live and your income, mm-hmm. there's so many families that are trapped where the system, fortunately, a traditional public school system, they tell you what school you're going to go to or else. And when you have the kind of statistics we've had, for us, our position is, let's look at opportunities that we can provide families that are working class, working poor, as well as families with unique special needs. We're saying make sure that we pay our teachers, make sure we have funding for our traditional public school system, because the vast majority of families will choose traditional public school system. My 2 daughters are in the traditional
My sons came through there.
public school system, so I have real skin in the game there. But we're also saying when we see far too many kids that are falling through the cracks with nothing else there, let's provide some opportunities here with public charter schools, private school even, by way of scholarship, so that at the end of the day, we have an opportunity where all children, regardless of income and regardless of zip code, can find that constitutional language fulfilled, as it says here, that every child should have an adequate education in the state. We believe that wholeheartedly. And again, we believe that when you look at the 21st century, given the complexity of issues that we have in our communities that plague certain communities, we believe that K-12 education is not traditional public school only. We're saying that traditional public school has the greatest stake to play, but not the only. We're saying that adequate public charter schools and adequate private schools, by way of making sure that we're helping the least of these, that is the way we need to in the 21st century look at K-12 education as we know it.
You mentioned constitutional rights. So let's educate people on the opposite side. So some of the opponents would say, well, it's exactly the opposite. The Constitution in our state requires that we give an appropriate education for our children. But what about the apparent lack of accountability as it relates to the private entities that are receiving the public dollars, teacher background checks, and those kinds of things? So kind of speak to that on the other side.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we have to have accountability. Fortunately, the Supreme Court did rule 2015 that the Opportunity Scholarship Program was constitutional. So this idea that in North Carolina we have public education, but what the court basically said is that in addition to public education, we know it, we can find ways in which private education schools can participate in the program. When we talk about accountability, what you will hear, what is being said there from our traditional public school system is that the rules that public charter school play in terms of accreditation, certification of teachers, things of that nature, public charter schools and private schools, they don't have the same standards that we have, therefore they are unaccountable. At the same time, many of the lobbyists from the traditional public school system are lobbying the General Assembly to strip some of those inflexibility, accountability requirements. And so what I say, and I don't make light of accountability, what I say is we want to have accountability. To your point about background checks, oh yes, we will be working this session to make sure what we have now in the Opportunity Scholarship Program that the head of school is the one who has to have a criminal background check. Now, I'm not sending my child to a private school where there's not everyone who's working there has a background check. And so that is one of the things that we're going to be addressing this session. The idea about 100% certification of teachers, that sounds good. That sounds good, Pastor. But think about what we're saying here. You're saying, and this is a case point, a retired expert from NASA who is skilled science, technology, engineering, math, who wanted to come to North Carolina and give 2 to 3 days of his time to be able to teach in the classroom, give some real experience and knowledge. Well, he was denied from the traditional public school, but public charter schools grabbed him and private schools grabbed him. And I say this to say that it's not to knock certification. I think that's important. But clearly, we can be flexible enough to understand that we cannot be inflexible to deny opportunity and talent for our children being able to learn in different ways and different means. And so public charter schools, private schools, and traditional schools, I like the fact that we have different scenarios in our traditional public schools as state tests. And it's of value to state tests. I personally like national norm tests. Private education is a required national norm test because I know you pass with your daughter. I know with my daughters, I kind of like to know not just how you're competing with Darrell But I kind of like to know how you competed with Bill and Bob in New Jersey and California, because you're going to be with them at the college, and you want to make sure that you're on par there. So I just think that I don't think anyone has a patent on the best education in 21st century. I think we need all at the table. I think we need quality options at the table, and I think the best thing is that the more quality options that we have in North Carolina, the better the chances that we're going to find that education that works. This is key for that particular child. I appreciate the conversation when we're talking about what we're going to do for those children. And again, you have to really think about and listen to the comment when we're talking about those kids. We're going to do these for those kids. You have to think about it for my kid. And I think when you take those kids and you say my child, I think every parent's going to do anything they can to get that education that's going to work best for their child. And when we change the conversation from personal, then I think we have a greater appreciation for the families that are seeking these options. And I think we have a great appreciation of looking at K-12 education in the best position.
What do you think the likelihood is, since we're using, I often like to say, Darrell, that we use the same vocabulary but different dictionaries, right? So everybody uses the vocabulary of accountability, but then we're all defining it differently. Or to your point about standardized test scores, is it statewide or is it national? Does your agency advocate for getting the same dictionary? Would you like to see those definitions the same, or do you think that's a less significant conversation?
So we're not an agency, we're a nonprofit. I believe that there's some good in public charter school that can be universalized. I think there's some good in our private schools that can benefit our traditional public school system. And I also believe in our traditional public school system, some of the rules and approaches can be utilized in our public charter schools and private schools. I hope, and what we're starting to see in Wake County is the largest school district in our state. Do they appreciate and love some of the policies that have been passed? No. Right. But as a result, for 2 years, they've seen more growth in enrollment in homeschool, private school, and charter school in Wake County. So the reality is sitting in, because that deals with budget. Now you can say all day, I hate these, but parents are mobilizing. And so what Wake County did, Pastor, the 20 lower performing public schools in the system, they revamped those and provided them as charter-like schools. What they essentially did was give more flexibility to the head of school. Now we're giving you more authority to analyze the students that are in your class, walking through your halls, and be able to customize an education that's going. That would not have happened. Now I like to say that you look in the mirror and you say, I'm going to get this change. That would not have happened with appropriate external pressures and a result of people moving as a result of that. I don't see that as a harmful thing. We have to have balance. I get that. But I think that's the kind of mobility, those are the kind of changes we want to see. Sure. Because again, at the end of the day, we just want to see the options elevated in quality.
I saw in the paper Sunday, I think there was a 16-year-old who had a 4-year-old child, and it was indicated that she was in a charter school and she never would have been able to be on the verge. This June she's getting her high school degree, and she would not have gotten her diploma if it weren't for a charter school that availed flexibility to her. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want you to talk about how people apply for opportunity scholarships and give us some, and also the disability scholarship, and how you have seen that really help people with whom you have conversed after they've done it. So we'll be right back.
Around Town is brought to you by Eastern North Carolina Medical Group. Good health is music to our ears. With office locations at 1041 Noel Lane, Suite 105 in Rocky Mount, 10589 East NC Highway 97 in Joiners Crossing Shopping Center in Rocky Mount, 155 Nashville Commons Drive in the Food Line Shopping Center Plaza in Nashville, North Carolina, 1812 Glendale Avenue, Suite B in Wilson, North Carolina, 903 North Arundel Drive in Zebulon, North Carolina, as well as the ENCMG Lewisburg Oncology Clinic at 216 North Beckett Boulevard, Suite 5 in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Log on to encmg.com today to locate the office nearest you.
We are back with Darrell, Allison, President for Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina, Pastor James Gilliard, Senior Pastor at Word Tabernacle. Before the break, I asked about opportunity scholarships, and I remember interviewing you when y'all were lobbying and just really very much of a bipartisan agreement in the legislature of North Carolina that this is good for kids. Explain what that is, and perhaps someone watching might think, gosh, I need to look into that.
Yeah, well, it was a program design, really looking at the data from the Department of Public Instruction, actually. When you look at the failure rate for many of our students in North Carolina from our public school, and you look at, we have the grade system now for our traditional public schools, and when you look at the significant percentages of kids that were in quote-unquote failing schools, poverty. And so, as we know, those families that are in poverty, the idea of a private education is just a dream, and definitely not a reality. And so the idea was that, all right, we've seen programs like these work in the District of Columbia. In Milwaukee, over 27 years, has been an operation where you customize a program providing state scholarship for low-income working-class families to be able to utilize the scholarship to enroll in a private school. We thought that would be something we should look at. So we had 2 Republican members as well as 2 Democratic members. There was a bipartisan sponsorship of the program, but there was a significant debate on the House floor, as well as a legal battle for over a year and a half of the constitutionality of this program. You have to accept that. You have to appreciate that. Since then, since 2013, it's constitutional. It has been really mind-boggling, Jean. Since 2013, we've had over 25,000 applications flood into the state for this program in all 100 counties. And again, check this out. We're talking about low-income families. You can't write out an application. You can't fax it in. You have to go online and apply online. A powerful story, a grandmother, many grandmothers are now raising their children. She's not technically inclined and didn't have a computer in her home, but her 8-year-old granddaughter and her walked to the library. Now check this out, Pastor. The 8-year-old and the grandmother together worked to fill out that application for the Opportunity Scholarship Program. And so over 24,000 applications. We didn't have funds for all of that. We have right at 6,000 families, students that are utilizing the program. Should be over 8,000, about 8,000 here by the fall. February 1st, 2017 was the first day for new applications to come in, and we were told by the agency responsible for the program in one day, February 1st, we had over 1,000 applications that came in. And so that window is still open. And so for your viewers here, they can visit schoolchoicenorthcarolina.com, schoolchoicenorthcarolina.com.
We will put that on the screen.
And learn a little bit about the program and then officially apply if they think that they are eligible, if they think that there's something of interest for them.
It's $4,200 is the most, and it's based on a person's income?
It is. So it's basically a family of 4, right around $44,000 or lower, and it goes up with each dependent. But here's the powerful thing, Pastor and Jean. $4,200. Now think about what this family is saying. It costs twice that to be educated in the public school system. And it really gets to the fight. You always hear the problems why these folks aren't educated. Parents don't care. Low-income parents are just not engaged. Poverty. I get that. I get barriers. But we have over 24,000 applications coming in. We have 6,000 students. We'll be at 8,000 fall. These are families that are basically saying, I'm leaving the school system, which I'm getting double to be educated for my child, taking half. And I know taking half, by and large, means I'm going to have to work another job, pinch pennies, pinch a lot of dollars to make up the difference. We ask, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And some of the feedback is, Darrell, I'm doing it because this is all I have. This is the most valuable commodity I have. This is my daughter, and I don't want her to be in the same situation that I was. And so I'm willing to make the step. I mentioned here that for, and it's a very odd conversation you have for a single mom, no man in the house who have a young boy. I've been told, Darrell, No doubt, I'm utilizing this for education. Education is important, but you know, there's no father in the home. I've made some mistakes. There's a school here, Male Leadership Academy. I want my young African-American male to go to that school because in that school, they're going to see what a real African-American man with character looks like. It's really fascinating. We did a poll of families that utilize the program. You know, why are they utilizing this program? What was the highest on the survey? It's not necessarily best education. It's not necessarily saying that traditional public schools are failing them just solely academically. The number one thing that registers is safety. When I go to work, I want to make sure that my child is in a safe environment. So it's really interesting when you really sit down and have that real community conversation, home conversation with these families as to why, what are the reasons or why they're looking at these options. And again, last but not least, I think the powerful thing here is parental school choice. You're not zoned into a private school. You're not zoned into a public charter school. And the only way you're going to be in those schools is because you choose to put your children there. In a traditional public school system, you're told where you're going to go. And it's my hope that as a result of the public charter school and private school, not that they are superior, again, my children are in traditional public school, but there is a power there at parental school choice. Yes, it's about that child. It is really about that child getting an education. But what you also get, the byproduct of that, is that you get an engaged parent.
Right.
And an engaged parent can not just wealthy, your middle income, you've got a lot of engaged parents at the lower level. The equation that works for adequate education, the public charter schools don't have, the private schools don't either. The greatest equation is an adequate teacher, an engaged student, and an equally engaged parent. That works where you're talking about traditional public school, public charter school, private school. What Choice is doing, Pastor, it is for the first time, it's empowering parents who've never been empowered before with an option. And we've seen parents who've explored private school, who explored the charter school, and has told me, Darrell, I'm going to stay at the public school I am because you know what? It actually fits where we are right now. And that's still powerful because you were able to make the journey to assess because you had the option to assess.
And that's interesting because I've really preached this whole issue of engaged parenting. You know, get involved in your child's education. So, in your opinion, is Choice creating a more engaged parent, or are these parents who are already engaged in their child's education, and therefore now, because of Choice, our most engaged parents are going to leave the traditional system?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, honestly. I mean, do we really want to shackle that engaged parent for being able to do more and be more for that child? And I liken it to somebody said, well, Darrell, you know, because it used to be, well, you know, Darrell, they're not interested, all right? But we've seen now the demand. Well, you know, Darrell, you're getting the most engaged parent. Well, that's what we all want in a lot of ways. I liken it to, you know, community is the fire. You know, it's taking down 9 houses, and you're at that 10th house, and that person said, "He saved me. Will you take me in, if you will?" I said, "No. You know, the other 9 were consumed by the fire, and that's not fair for you." No, we want that engaged parent. The issue is how are we stimulating? You know, is our public school, can they look at ways in which they can stimulate more of that parent engagement? Because in the beautiful world that I see, I want to see more Wake County. I want to work with Wake County in our larger districts because I think there's something there. We know where the schools are failing. How do we look at these zip codes and say, all right, in these areas, these zones, we're going to put this as a unique district zone, and in these areas where we know we have challenges, we're going to provide some options here for these families so that they can choose. Again, it takes little things like that. Maybe you give them 3 options and you pick the top 3. They have that at Winston-Salem, and they've had it over a decade, and it's going very well. I believe parent choice. School administrators at the table, teachers at the table. That's pretty much where it stops in our traditional public school. We also have to have a seat at the table for parents. You get that parent working with that teacher, working with that school. I think that's going to really help in better education as we know it in our state, and really elevate North Carolina nationally as well.
This will be a little bit of a touchy subject, but I think it's important for the people watching to hear the feedback. How is this, and I support what you do, let me be very clear about that. How is this not the public funding of racial and religious segregation? Because a lot of these dollars are going to religious schools, from what I've read. So, I mean, I'm a church, right? I'm going to hire Christian people, right? That's just what we do. So if it's a Christian school, they're going to hire a Christian teacher, right? So that means in my hiring practices, it's really limited to a certain religious group. Now I'm getting public dollars that enable me to still do that. Speak to that dynamic, because I think that's a touchy point for people.
Yeah, and it's a touchy point. The good thing is that our Supreme Court has already ruled on this. I mean, in fact, also just look at our universities. I mean, we really go back 100 years or so. We'll see a lot of them came from our faith institutions, if you will. But the Supreme Court ruled well over a decade ago, that just because a school is religious in nature, does that in itself means that there's a unconstitutionality to that. What they took the position of is that parent. The power is in the parent. The parent is choosing a school that happens to be, say, a Catholic school. And as long as that school, in terms of the academic education aspect, is that, not necessarily preaching Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, if you will, that's constitutional. And so we've dealt with it on the legal side. But I also understand what you're saying. The fact of the matter is, Pastor, we're in the Bible Belt. And of the 700 private schools in the state, the vast majority of them are religious based. There are a lot of parents who really are excited about that option, because what they are saying is, my child is smart, but you know what? The boy don't know how to act right. And so I want good, stern discipline. I want accountability. That's the thing that I'm needing in my school right now. In a lot of ways, you have that character building, real tightness there, if you will, where there are real reaction to your action, if you will. And so, touchy subject. I get it. I understand it. But we're diverse enough as a state, as a nation. We're diverse to I think, for non-secular private institutions as well as religious institutions to be able to have a place to play in the educational aspect of our children.
We do have a number of local children who are already accessing the Opportunity Scholarship, don't we?
We do. We have a number of schools here. I think about 7 private schools here in the greater region here that utilize an Opportunity Scholarship, as well as a special needs program. We have nearly 1,000 homeschoolers. That's one of the things that's not talked about in terms of parental school choice. North Carolina leads the nation in terms of homeschool. We have over 118,000 children that are homeschooled. Here we have 1,000 homes, nearly 1,000 homes. So it's about 1,200 students that are homeschooled, as well as a public charter school as well. So there's an embracing of choice in this region here.
Well, and we're out of time, which I really hate, because we could go on for another 30 minutes easily. But Darrell, thank you for what you do, and thank you for sharing with us all about it, because I think you've given us a lot to think about and to celebrate. So thank you. Have a great day. See you next week.
Around Town is brought to you by Eastern North Carolina Medical Group. Good health is music to our ears. With office locations at 1041 Noel Lane, Suite 105 in Rocky Mount, 10589 East NC Highway 97 in Joiners Crossing Shopping Center in Rocky Mount, 155 Nashville Commons Drive in the Food Line Shopping Center Plaza in Nashville, North Carolina, 1812 Glendale Avenue, Suite B in Wilson, North Carolina, 903 North Arundel Drive in Zebulon, North Carolina, as well as the ENCMG Lewisburg Oncology Clinic at 216 North Beckett Boulevard, Suite 5 in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Log on to encmg.com today to locate the office nearest you.